Hey folks, this week Cosmic is finally here, and we also talk about Pear OS and Ubuntu. If you're interested, there is a palm-sized mini NAS and a palm-sized, really impressive ARM computer. Both we take a look at, we don't have on our desks yet, but there's also interesting stuff about cache, about Rust in Linux, and Gnome's take on AI. You don't want to miss it, so stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is the Untitled Linux Show, episode 233, recorded Saturday, December the 13th. Tiny Tater Tots. Hey folks, it is Saturday, and you know what that means. It is time for the Untitled Linux Show. We're going to geek out over some software and some hardware, the kernel stuff, desktop environments, all kinds of fun things coming. It is not just me, of course. We've got Rob and Jeff. Our friendly neighborhood Ken is still off on, shall we say, Christmas and holiday related activities. He should be back sometime after the first of the year. But welcome, guys. Good to have you both.
Hello.
Oh, good to be here.
Jeff, your office is really coming together. You got some lighting going on, and it looks really nice.
Yeah, I'm not all washed out today. I've got things a little more sorted. There's still, it's going to be a couple months before I have a bookcase back here. It's on order, but there's still more little things coming. So it's not complete yet. There might still be a little even echoey, but we're getting there.
Yeah, no, it's great. It looks really good. Yeah, so let's dive into some news. We've got something that we're going to talk about that we've talked a lot about over the past few months. I think some of us have even done some trial runs of this. We're going to let Rob take it away and tell us all about that. But first, this.
Hello, everybody. Leo Laporte here. You know what a great gift would be, whether for the holidays or at just any time, a birthday? A membership in Club TWiT. If you have a TWiT listener in your family, somebody who enjoys our programming, and you want to give them a nice gift and support what we do, visit twit.tv/clubtwit. They'll really appreciate it, and so will we. Thank you. twit.tv/clubtwit.
So one of my big predictions for 2025 has finally come to pass.
You really squeaked this one in there.
And just in time. I told you it was coming, and here it is. Pop! OS 24.04 LTS. I didn't specifically say that, but with the first stable release of the new Cosmic Desktop is now available. And the Cosmic Desktop specifically being in a first stable release is what I predicted. So, yeah, we've been talking about Cosmic for over a year now. Even demoing the alpha and I think a beta release on the show, but always with the warning that it wasn't ready for production use. Well, now it is. At least they say it is. Cosmic is built from the ground up with Rust, and from my test, it's a very snappy desktop environment. Default in the just released Pop! OS 24.04 LTS. Cosmic is default, but it's also available in many other distros like Arch, Fedora, OpenSUSE, SUSE, Tumbleweed, Nixos, and more. And even stretching into BSD and Redox OS. So Pop! OS 24.04 LTS ships with a newer Linux 6.17 kernel series, Mesa 25.1.x, and an NVIDIA 580 driver option. And Pop's hybrid graphics story is getting even better. Apps that request discrete GPU can now use it automatically, and you can still force a GPU choice per app. So I know 24.04 seems a little old with 26.04 Ubuntu just around the corner, but they are in production mode with this, and I expect they will be keeping up a lot better now in the future since the first release of Cosmic is out of the way. So I haven't had a chance to give it a full bare metal run yet, but I do have it in a VM right now. And those watching, you can see it behind me. But according to other reviewers, it isn't quite perfect yet. And, though my recollection of the alpha is really good, even with this in the VM, one problem I had today is I had this running already. And I don't know if it has a problem with going into standby in a VM or what it was, but when I came back, it was a black screen. I couldn't wake it up. I had to reboot it. So next time I rebooted it, I turned all the power settings to, never suspend, never shut off the monitor and all that stuff. So really, what do you got to turn that off for in a VM anyway? I suppose suspend could be handy maybe, but
I've always turned suspend and hibernate off on my Linux machines. It always has been buggy. It's buggy on Windows too.
I agree.
Yeah.
And any Windows, anything, I've always turned off hibernate. Suspend, hit and miss. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Usually I do. I never use it. If I want to turn it off, I'll turn it off. Okay.
I'll turn my computer off my own self.
But anyway, from the other reviews, they are saying there's rough edges, as like some audio routing weirdness, occasional dock icon glitches for new pinned apps, and OBS screen recording still being finicky for some people. But, none of those sound like stop the world unless you're streaming, then OBS could be an issue. But, more like, these are things that hopefully we're going to see polished now that they have a release. Things will tighten up quickly, and the 2604 should be just amazing. And if you want to try it now, there are multiple ISOs. There's a standard image, an NVIDIA focused image, even an ARM image, including ARM with NVIDIA for the Thelio Astra. And if you're on Pop! OS 2204, upgrade prompts are expected to start showing up in January of 2026 for those watching in some other year. You know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so if you're the type that doesn't want to wait, to do just, wipe, reload, backup, all that good stuff and install it and give it a shot.
Yeah. So I've kind of got a bit of a race going on here as to on this Pop! OS machine, whether I'm going to get the prompt to do the update or if my new framework laptop is going to come in first. So I'm in one of the December batches. It's supposed to ship sometime in December, and we'll see if that actually happens.
And like you said, Rob, I mean, this is 1.0. This is brand new versus, KDE is so much smoother. Well, it's on, it's got a 20-year head start. It's on 5 or 6.5.4 or something. So they've had a long time to polish and massage, and this is brand new.
People have had years to yell at the devs over these things.
Yes.
Yeah. The little bit I actually used it, besides that suspend or whatever the issue was I was seeing, things still seem to work pretty smoothly, pretty snappy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I am real curious what it would be like on, one of the new Pop! OS machines.
But I'd like to see the ARM one on the Thelio.
That's true. Yeah, it would probably do very well there too. Probably would. All right.
Hold on. Maybe that's my premium ARM laptop that I really didn't think came out this year, but maybe that is it. And we just didn't touch on it enough.
Didn't talk about it enough.
Yeah, you're reaching.
Oh, come on. You're
with the whole ARM.
You're calling a System 76 laptop, ARM laptop, not a premium one? All they make is premium stuff.
Is it even a laptop? Isn't the Thelio their desktop?
What? It is a desktop. You're right.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Rob's got a really big lap.
Just super glue a monitor onto it and then, jam a power supply UPS in there. And
anything.
Look, Ma, it's a laptop. Yeah.
Well, they have those CPU coolers with LCD screens. You just pop the side panel off and use this
It should be a laptop. They should have a laptop next year.
They may eventually. All right, Jeff, you've got something interesting here.
Yeah, I have something. I think.
What is this? Do you actually have one of these?
No, but I'm like, I think I need to get one of these.
Oh well,
and I think Rob and Jonathan need one of these. I got something that they might want to spend their money on. So what we're talking about, it's a small NAS, and small meaning 5 3/4 inches by 3.8 inches and just 1 1/4 inches thick. Sorry, I didn't convert to metric. I'm sure several of you already guessed that this is a small form factor, so it uses NVMe drives, 4 of them to be exact. And I have a couple links in the show notes about this item, but I do want to point out an error in the How To Geek link. It says it only supports 1 terabyte NVMe drives, and that is not correct. It supports up to 4 terabyte NVMe drives. So there's a possibility for 16 terabytes of storage. Now, the drives will only communicate at PCIe 3.0 speeds, but really that's going to be plenty fast for a NAS. Drives running at 3.0 hit roughly 3,000 to 3,500 megabytes a second, with an interface limit of 4 gigabytes a second when using 4 PCIe lanes. If that isn't enough, then you probably need an enterprise solution. The rest of the specifications for the Nest disk, NEST-DISK, include an Intel N150 quad-core CPU, and it runs at 3.6 gigahertz, but it's designed to be a low-power option, though, its standard speed, when it's not boosting, is 1.6 gigahertz, and it will only pull about 6 watts even when it's under load. So you can keep this thing on the network all the time without making a big dent in your power bill. The CPU has 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5, but if you so desire, there is an option to get a 16 gigabyte version. Something that's pretty cool is that it comes with 2 2.5 gigabyte Ethernet ports. So they're not they're not able to keep up with the PCIe 3.0 drives. So that's why, even if you're thinking, wow, I need PCIe 5, well, you're limited by your Ethernet port. But, 2.5 gig Ethernet, that's pretty good. It can transfer about 18 gigabytes per minute. So even if you have an enormous amount of data to back up, like say you get a phone with 300 gigabytes of pictures, you're looking at less than 30 minutes. So it's not bad for moving quite a bit of data. It does have integrated Intel graphics, a USB-C port for power, a second USB-C port for video, audio, or data, and an HDMI port. It's got a standard 3.5 millimeter aux port, like for audio, Bluetooth 5.2, and Wi-Fi 6. Now, it does come loaded with Open Media Vault, standard, which is a Debian-based load, but it's designed to be NAS specific. Because it's Debian, you can use tools like rsync, cron, and so on to schedule backups and do all sorts of things. It supports many RAID levels such as 0, 1, 5, and 6, and all the others. So if you want to get fancy, you can do the 10 and 01. But realistically, set it on 5 or 6 and just be happy. You can use this as a router, or you can even use it as a low-end PC if you have light tasks which you want to do with it. It's 4 cores and it's not super powerful, but some light browsing and things like that. You can use this like a mini PC. To see what you're doing, it has the HDMI ports and a Type-C output, as I said, and it can support up to 3 4K displays. The system is built by UE2. It's YOUYEETOO, all one word, and it can be found in places like Amazon for purchase. I looked today and the price is $219 US out of Amazon. There's other local retailers for other countries as well, or you can purchase it directly from UE2 website as well. take a look at the article linked in the show notes for more details. And they have direct links to the UE2 website for the Nest Disk Mini PC NAS. And Jonathan, think this is going to wind up under your tree?
Probably not. I've got a full size server already that is sort of my data storage place. It is really interesting for $215 particularly. If someone needed a little server, and I could see why this would be very interesting. I find it fascinating. I was thinking about this the other day that we're starting to use USB-C for power, USB-C with power delivery for so many
Everything.
Yeah, for so many different things. Like things that used to, you would either have a dedicated power adapter, or you would run AC power into. I remember at one point people were talking about this, like, man, we need some sort of DC power standard, and it just occurred to me the other day, like USB-C with power delivery has become that standard.
It'd be nice when USB-C just takes over everything.
I mean, it kind of already has. Kind of.
Well, I mean,
already
they could even
has.
Get rid of HDMI and other things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can already do DisplayPort over USB-C with DisplayPort alt mode.
We just need audio through DisplayPort.
That's true. That's one of the things that doesn't work yet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, this is a really interesting little box, though. If you get one, make sure and let us know how it goes. It'd be fun to do sort of a review of it.
Oh yeah.
I'm not looking for anything now, but maybe if mine dies ever, it's been around for probably a decade now. So if that ever dies, maybe this will be next on my list. Hopefully, it doesn't die now.
We've cursed it. All right. So I actually found something sort of similar this week. I came across the Orange Pi 6 Plus. And no, I don't actually physically have one of these, but I found a review with benchmarks over at Linux Links, and it's really interesting. So it is a ARM v9 processor on a board. It's a 12-core CPU, and it comes with either 16 gigs, 32 gigs, or a whopping 64 gigs of memory. It's got HDMI out. This one also has dual Ethernet. I think they run at 2.5. I'm not 100% sure. Also USB Type-C power supply. This one, what really fascinated me about it, the two things. One was the benchmarks. And if you actually go to the link and you click through to the benchmarks of the fellow that did this, Steve Ems, of all of the things that he benchmarked, it was like basically twice as fast, so it closer to 3 times faster than the Raspberry Pi 5 in a lot of these benchmarks. In fact, it did so well that he went and grabbed a couple of Intel i5 based boards. And so he's also got on here the i5 10400 and the 12400s. That's 10th generation and 12th generation. And in this particular benchmark, it's really pretty close to the performance of that i5 10400, which is really impressive for an ARM board. And then there's one other sort of really odd element to this, and that is its cores. So it's got 12 CPU cores, but they're not all the same. In fact, they're quite different. So it has it's a quad core Cortex A720, a quad core Cortex A520, and a quad core looks like also a Cortex A720 large. So it's broken up into 3 different banks of cores, and some of these their performance is really, really bad, but one of the things that's intended for is to be able to turn off the other cores if you're looking for memory efficiency and run on those small cores. Really, really interesting little device here. And I had fun sort of poking through and reading about it on this article. Now, it doesn't come with a case. It looks like a bare board. But really fascinating to see sort of the newest thing. And really, it kind of makes me think about, certainly the Raspberry Pi 6 is being worked on. I wonder what it's going to look like.
That's amazing what these little boards can do now and what they come with. And
man, I know the Orange Pi itself isn't new, but this must be a new version.
Yeah, Orange Pi is basically the brand name at this point. That's like, I don't know if it's a company named Orange Pi or if that's just the branding they use. But, it's... They make pretty good products. It's one of the more popular alternatives to the Raspberry Pi, really. Apparently, it's got a GPU in it that supports some ray tracing. I don't know what the ARM Immortals G270 MC10 GPU is, but it's apparently fairly impressive. The whole thing.
What's the price on this compared to a Pi? A Raspberry, I mean.
I was looking for that, and I don't know that they've got the price on it yet. Because I wanted to mention that at the time of writing, the Orange Pi 6 Plus with the cooler fan handshake is available on AliExpress for £247. I don't know what that is in real money, but
I think
that's a joke. Close. That's a joke, guys. Don't at me. Don't cancel me on Twitter.
I think the conversion rate's pretty close. It roughly one.
It is on Amazon already. The 16 gig version for $245.
According to Google, 247 pounds is like $330. So,
and here's on Amazon the 32 gig version for $299.
So definitely more expensive than a Raspberry.
Definitely more expensive than a Raspberry Pi.
So you're getting what you're paying what you're getting. Paying for what you're getting.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the other cool things about this is it's got looks like 3. Well, they're not all NVMe. 2 of them are NVMe and 1 is for Wi-Fi. It's got 3 slots on the bottom. The NVMe style slots. I never can remember exactly because the key is in a different spot. That'll tell you what the thing is actually intended for. I never can remember which keying means what. But yeah, it's a fun looking little board.
Yeah, I just try to shove stuff in there and see if it fits.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
Biggest problem with those boards is just having the projects to run with them. What am I going to do with this board?
Well, so it looks like it's actually 5 gig Ethernet. That's really impressive too.
I used to have great projects, but most of them have been replaced now with my home server and a VM and Proxmox, or one of my other projects was a little gaming machine. I gutted a Nintendo years ago and put a Raspberry Pi in there and wired everything up so it looked native almost. But now we got the Steam Deck and I don't know. I got Proxmox. I don't need any of that.
That's my thing is the server kind of took over a lot of stuff. And
yeah, I got a handful of Raspberry Pis sitting around doing nothing.
And unfortunately, I do too. I have some of them still doing things, but some of them, are pretty idle at the moment. This thing's got some real horsepower though. You 3D print a case for that and you can make a really nice router out of it.
Did you say 2 network ports?
It's got 2 NICs. It's got 2 5 gig NICs on it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Time to get the LAN up to 5 gig.
Yeah, time to upgrade. All right, Rob has a I don't know, is it a review, a story about a different OS? And we're going to talk about that right after this.
Hey, everybody. Leo Laporte here, and I'm going to bug you one more time to join Club TWiT. If you're not already a member, I want to encourage you to support what we do here at TWiT. 25% of our operating costs comes from membership in the club. That's a huge portion, and it's growing all the time. That means we can do more. We can have more fun. You get a lot of benefits, ad-free versions of all the shows. You get access to the Club TWiT Discord and special programming like the keynotes from Apple and Google and Microsoft and others that we don't stream otherwise in public. Please join the club. If you haven't done it yet, we'd love to have you. Find out more at twit.tv/clubtwit. And thank you so much.
So I don't think we've ever talked about Pear OS in the past on the show, but I have checked it out myself. I'm pretty sure I've installed it in a VM before years ago. I may have even installed a bare metal. I never really ran with it for very long, but probably one of those times when I was just trying different things. But it also makes a lot of sense that we haven't talked about it on the show, as it's kind of been somewhat of a dead project for a while. Well, it's back. Pear OS is back. But before I get into that, let's go into the backstory. So the original spark of Pear OS began back in the year 2011 when French developer David Tarvars built Pear OS on top of Ubuntu using Gnome and a very intentional goal of making Linux feel more familiar to people who loved the Mac OS desktop. Then it got complicated. There was a Debian edition renamed to Comis OS, then back again. And in 2014, Tarvas sold the distro to an undisclosed company. I didn't know you could sell these little distros. I need to get into that business. Anyway, and around that time, public downloads effectively disappeared. But Pear never really completely stayed gone. The idea resurfaced later as Pear OS, capital P, lowercase EAR, capital O, capital S. And now it's been re-energized again, this time by Romanian developer Alexandru Balin under Pear OS. And that is spelled lowercase Pear, uppercase O and S. So it's a lowercase p this time. But again, the guts of the distro have also gone a different direction. Strangely, it seems like a lot of distros lately have been rebasing on this core distro lately. Well, now Pear OS Nice Core 25.12 is built on Arch Linux, and it uses a heavily customized, you guys are going to love this, KDE Plasma desktop to chase that modern macOS look and feel, right down to the glossy animated design language that the project calls Liquid Gel. And, and because it's based on Arch, the pitch is the classic rolling release promise: install once, keep it updated forever, which is not very macOS-like. But no big version jumps, no reinstalls, just continuous updates from the Arch ecosystem with Pear OS styling layered on top. Another odd change is the installer. So Nice Core is the first Pear OS release shipping a brand new installer built with Electron and Node.js. Wouldn't be my choice in 2025, but it's also clearly a work in progress. The project describes it as a beta and warns it may still be unstable while development continues. Pear OS isn't just another theme pack pretending to be a distro. It's a full attempt to answer a real question, being what if Linux felt premium and familiar right out of the box for macOS refugees without giving up the freedom and flexibility underneath. Sure, you can customize most desktop environments to look like macOS, but just like Linux Mint is often recommended to Windows users for, the Windows-like style out of the box from Windows converts, Pear OS could be that for macOS converts. What I think would be interesting is to see Pear OS team up with the Asahi Linux guys. So you can change your Mac, your MacBook or whatever, into a Linux machine with very little interface change. You have a MacBook one day, your MacBook doesn't change much, but underneath you have the power of Linux. Anyway, I would say go download it now, try it out yourself. I guess you still can, but you may be waiting a while to actually try it out. I've been downloading it all day at a stupid slow speed measured in kilobytes. Last I looked, I think it was like 200 some kilobytes. I killed my download, tried downloading somewhere else. Everything else works fine, but their download says it's going to take close to 24 hours. So I don't know if this news story just went boom and everybody's trying to get their hands on the new Pear OS and he's on a slow DSL upload or what, but which is why I have not been able to show you what it looks like, but it looks a lot like Mac OS. That's what it looks like. It looks like Mac OS. In fact, the screenshots I've seen, the little icon in the bottom left of the tray, Matt calls the Finder, I think. It looks almost too much like their icon. It's a little different, but it looks too much like their icon to stick around there long, in my opinion. But yeah, it's pretty slow right now. So if you want to try it next week and start downloading it.
Did they not? Is there not a torrent option?
No, not that I saw.
Man, this is why distros distribute their ISOs with torrents. This is the very problem.
Well, maybe they figured out this is just a little distro. It's just a little hobby thing. I'm going to have one person seating it. It's not going to speed anything up. My fast server will do better.
Yeah, it is. It's blown up a little beyond that.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I am always a little dubious of these niche distros. Not that they, not that they don't have great intentions, and in many cases they do really interesting things. But probably don't start with this. At least not until it's got a few more miles under it. Go use Asahi if you're coming from Mac, or go Fedora or Ubuntu.
Well, you're not going to be installing this on an M1 Mac. On M2 today. They don't have that with the Asahi anyway. So,
yeah.
Well, and we did a story, I think about 6 months ago, about the number of distributions that kind of people like, this is great, we're going to do this. And then the amount of work involved to keep a distribution going. There's a lot of it that kind of like, oh, this is, they like the making of it, but the maintenance drags people down, or they just get burnt out because if it doesn't hit that critical mass where you have a whole bunch of people helping you, stuff starts falling behind. And then
some of the stuff is just not very fun, like dealing with CVEs, that sort of thing. It's just no fun. The fun, sexy stuff is making it shiny and pushing that first ISO out there, and then everything else after that is just kind of boring and turns into work. Turns into work. All right. Jeff, there is a thing that is getting boring.
And it's Jeff.
No, it's something Jeff wants to talk about. I think something in the kernel is beginning to get boring, and maybe that means it's working.
Yes. So there's a new patch out for Rust from Linux lead developer Miguel Ojeda. Sorry. And it's to conclude the experiment of Rust being in the kernel. It's over. The experiment's done. Now, this was discussed in Japan, where there was a Linux plumbers conference just this week. Kind of like it sounds, a conference is where Linux developers get together to talk about the plumbing layer of the kernel. The plumbing layer is the glue layers which make the kernel and the interface to the user land work together. It's kind of the core infrastructure. When we talk about KDE and we mention framework, it's kind of the same thing. It's the pipes that connect them. More importantly, though, what has come out of the conference, and one of the items was Rust is going to be in the kernel and is no longer experimental. Miguel had this to say in the kernel Linux mailing list. The Rust support was merged into 6.1 into the main line in order to help determine whether Rust as a language was suitable for the kernel, i.e., worth the trade-offs, technically, procedurally, and socially. Now, that socially comes because there's been some existing maintainers that didn't like certain things about Rust, and there's been some heated discussions in the kernel mailing list about Rust. But I digress. At the 2025 Linux Kernel Maintainer Summit, the experiment has just been deemed concluded. Thus, remove the section. Now, he doesn't specifically say it, but he's referring to the Rust experiment part of the documentation in the code. It's not fully true already anyway, meaning it's kind of past experimental, since there are several uses of Rust in production out there. Some well-known Linux distributions enable it, and it's already in millions of devices via Android. Obviously, this does not mean that everything works for every kernel, configuration, architecture, toolchain, etc., or that there won't be new issues. There's still a ton of work to do in all areas, from the kernel to upstream Rust, GCC, and other projects. And in fact, certain combinations, such as the mixed GCC plus LLVM builds and the upcoming GCC support, are still quite experimental, but getting there. But the experiment is done. Rust is here to stay. I hope this signals commitment from the kernel to companies and other entities to invest more into it, i.e., into giving time into their kernel, giving more time into their kernel developers to train themselves in Rust. Thanks to the many kernel maintainers that gave the project their support and patience throughout those years, and to the many other developers, whether in the kernel or in other projects, that have made this possible. I had a long list of 173 names in the credits of the original poll that merged the support into the kernel, and now such a list would be way longer. So I will not even try to compose one, but again, thanks a lot, everybody. So the article is linked in the show notes and does go on to say that the Rust code in the kernel isn't built by default, but that should change in the near future. Things like the NVIDIA Nova driver are written in Rust and will soon be included in the kernel for everyone. We talked about this before, but Nova is still and that's NVIDIA's open source driver, is still currently in an experimental stage. Take a look at the article in the show notes for the full details and a link to the kernel mailing list. And as the band Megadeth said, Rust in peace.
Oh my. Yeah, it's been interesting to see how controversial that has been. It's something that should be so boring, and people have had some weird opinions about it. But it has been fascinating. It has been fascinating to see the security problems that have shown up in Rust-based programs and some Go-based programs. And sort of, there is the reminder that writing it in Rust or in Go or whatever is not a panacea. It does not fix every security problem. It just fixes one of them. But anyway.
Yeah, and some of it, I think, is people get used to how, some of the maintainers were used to how things worked, and now I got to learn another language because I don't understand this. So to maintain it, you're adding more work, and the comments in the article just quickly turned political and just kind of went nowhere. So there wasn't really any valuable commentary in the comments or anything that. Yeah,
I don't. And we don't have to talk about this for long, but I don't understand how Rust became, well, I guess I do, how it became a political thing. I do, because what it is there's some personalities that have strong opinions about it, both on the pro side and the against side. And so the unfortunately, some of the politics of those personalities have stuck and made things stink. From both sides. I think there is some stinky personalities on both sides from what I've seen. But anyway.
Yeah, it just kind of became into a manure slinging fest. And it was like, there wasn't really anything talking about the technical. Yeah. The only thing that maybe had merit is some people said that, this will close up some of the security holes, and some people are saying governments aren't super happy about this. But as you said, it's not the panacea. So it's not like, oh, it's now in Rust, everything's great. And,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's some valid points to having to maintain another language for people who don't know it. But it reminds me of a question I saw somewhere. It might have been Reddit. I don't remember where it was. The question was, what is going to happen to Linux when all the old C developers are gone?
That's a challenging question. That is actually a question that keeps the Linux guys. They think about that a lot. That's one of the reasons why they have some of the outreach things, and they try to get new people into the kernel.
My answer to it was the new C guys will take care of it.
Yeah. That's true. You just have to make sure that pipeline is working the way that it's supposed to. All right.
Well, I think
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think they've made some steps to try to ease the entryway, because it used to be, it was kind of almost elite, and it was, I mean, it still is, but I mean, it was kind of, people put up artificial walls to try to, you're not a developer, you gotta, and the problem is then they get high enough and nobody can make it, and maybe we better put some steps in here because we're killing our youth new person feeder supply.
That's actually a real tricky thing to get the balance right, because you do want some walls. You don't want just everybody, particularly as maintainers, but you don't want to have to look at everybody's code. We've got a story about that here in just a second.
You don't want me throwing code in the kernel,
right?
That's not good.
Same. Like I am not at the level yet of writing code for the kernel. That would take some time to get there. It's a delicate balance to strike to make it the right amount of difficult to start adding code to something like the kernel. Okay, so that's actually an interesting segue. I did not even plan this one, but that's a real interesting segue to this news about Gnome. And Gnome says no more AI. No more AI, specifically in Gnome shell extensions. There's a new rule in the guidelines that says extensions must not be AI generated. And he goes on to say that it's not prohibited to use AI as a learning aid or as a development tool, like code completion. Extension developers should be able to justify and explain the code they submit within reason. Submissions with large amounts of unnecessary code, inconsistent code style, imaginary API usage, comments serving as LLM prompts, or other indications of AI-generated output will be rejected. And I read this at first, and I went, that's interesting. I wonder why they're taking that stance. Is it kind of a moral stance? Is it a legal stance? And then I went and looked, and no. Gnome actually reviews the code of all of those extensions before they accept them into the extension core, the extension store. And the poor guy that does it is sick and tired of looking at everybody's bad vibe coded extensions. And so he's just now saying, nope, no more. If I can tell it's vibe coded, it just gets rejected right away. It's like, that's pretty fair. Yeah. If you could tell it's vibe coded, you probably just need to kill it. Then this is part of also the This Week in Gnome, and I've got a link to that as well. There are a couple of other interesting things in there, some third-party projects that they talk about, and then they cover that review, some other stuff going on in Gnome, like adaptive brightness, working in Gnome 49 with the brightness stuff there. They've got some internships going on and an event coming. Some fun stuff there in Gnome World. And then for completeness, I've also got the link to the This Week in Plasma, talking about KDE. And there's a couple of interesting things there. One of the big ones, let's see if I can find it. Two big ones here. There's now better support for screen mirroring under Wayland in KDE. That's one of those things that people have complained about with the the move to Wayland that certain things don't work. Well, one of these things is now marked off the list, and screen mirroring works again. And the other one that's really interesting is that K-Screen Doctor, that's sort of the under the hood tool that KDE has for doing stuff with your screens. It now will let you add custom screen modes, which this has been a pain to do for a long time. You used to be able to, I think you still can, boot your kernel and give it custom EDID stuff. But now you can just turn on a different screen mode, and KDE will instruct the video card to output that screen mode, whether the device on the other end thinks it can support it or not, which does let you do some really interesting things like potentially overclocking a 60 hertz monitor to 70 hertz, running at weird resolutions and or weird clock speeds like say 48 hertz, which you go, why would you want to display at 48 hertz? Well, if you're playing 24 hertz video, then you might want to display it at 48 hertz. Some other really interesting things like that you wouldn't necessarily think about all that you might need it, but there are places and times where some of these oddball behaviors really is what you want it to do. And so have support now for that inside of KDE. So all kinds of fun stuff going on in the desktop environments.
I'd be curious to see how bad some of these vibe codes are that it's that big of a problem. But
so we've gotten over in Meshtastic, we've gotten some vibe coded pull requests, and yeah, some of them are okay. Some of them are real special though. Like I'm trying to remember one of them in particular. The vibe coded commit, one of the things that it wanted to do was change the name of the project. The guy was like, why would you pull my commit? Oh boy. Another one, it was here's a new data structure. And it was just the most overcomplicated data structure to save a certain type of data. And it's like, it's going to be so much more efficient. And it's like, you've got the same amount of data and the same amount of RAM. It's not gonna be 1,000 times more efficient like you think it will. This is just not how computers work. I don't care what your AI agent tells you. So yes, there's some weird vibe coded pull requests out there, and the problem is a couple of problems. They tend to generate lots and lots of code. So, because like you can just tell the vibe.
Like old front page websites.
Well, yeah. I mean, every time you tell the AI agent work on this problem, it generates more code, and it may eventually work, but you're going to have thousands and thousands of lines of code changes, and then also it does some of these weird, ridiculous things that the type of human that you actually want working in your project would never think about doing. The AI agent has no shame.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have no problems with AI helping, but I guess if it's so obvious that you could tell that AI wrote it, that makes sense. And I threw in the front page thing. I don't do a whole lot these days, but I've been doing website design since the late 90s. Pure HTML, writing in Pico back then, and Notepad, and I remember hating seeing somebody's front page, designing Microsoft front page or any of those WYSIWYGs at the time. They were horrible. Like to do a little page that maybe just said hello world on it, it would have had just pages and pages of junk in them. And I guess that's kind of what this reminds me of when you say that.
I remember a place where I went to school for a while. Their website, this was in the early 2000s. Their website was a Macromedia Flash thing, and the entire website was one Macromedia Flash application. It was not pretty. Very similar to that, just worse.
I was gonna say, I know the professional coders that vibe code that I know, use it for, like writing smaller functions, and it just spits it at, like, oh, I need to read a file into this kind of data structure, and they go, okay,
Yeah.
and then you can look it over real quick, and it's not a
Well, that's the difference. Somebody that really knows what they're doing looks at what the AI agent spits out and understands what the code does. It can fix the guy then can fix it, or go back and put another prompt in and say, you did dumb here, go fix your code. And
they're using it for more bite size chunks. They're not just saying, oh, program this to do this and this big thing and a complete package. It's very much I want you to do this 1 or 2 step part. Go. And something manageable. So it's speeding up the coding process without trying to shove too much complexity into the AI.
Yeah. Part of it also is people ask the AI to work miracles for them. They don't understand why what they're asking it to do is either not possible or not practical. And the AI does its best to do what it's asked to do, because that's the way we've programmed these things. And sometimes hilarity ensues.
We haven't properly defined the question.
It's part
of the problem. Another Douglas Adam reference.
Yeah. All right. Rob has got yet another. Are you only doing distro reviews today, Rob? That's all you bring into the table. Rob is only good for distro reviews. That's the only reason we have him on the show.
So as we eat at Rob's table.
Yeah.
As we wrap up the year, there's just so much we need to discuss with the distros, as
all right,
distros are coming out and new ones are getting ready to come in. And
all right, we're going to let Rob talk more about distros right after this.
Hey, everybody, it's Leo Laporte. Are you trying to keep up with the world of Microsoft? It's moving fast, but we have 2 of the best experts in the world, Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. They join me every Wednesday to talk about the latest from Microsoft on Windows Weekly. It's not a lot more than just Windows. I hope you'll listen to the show every Wednesday. Easy enough. Just subscribe in your favorite podcast client to Windows Weekly, or visit our website at twit.tv/WW. Microsoft's moving fast, but there's a way to stay ahead. That's Windows Weekly, every Wednesday on TWiT.
All right, Mr. Distro Man, take it away.
All right. So Ubuntu 26.04 LTS. Okay, it's still a few months out. Like April 2026 is when we'd be expecting it. But some changes are coming, and they're already making some waves. First up, I know Jonathan's already talking about Gnome. Well, let's talk about Gnome again. And in this case, it's with Ubuntu. So it's going to be Gnome, but more Gnome-like. So Canonical's Yarrow team is refactoring the Gnome shell theme, so Ubuntu stops maintaining a structurally custom style sheet and instead leans on upstream Gnome's default styling, layering Ubuntu-specific overrides on top of that. And, I personally always appreciate a more vanilla experience, in most cases at least. Sometimes some tweaks are nice, but, I like vanilla lots of things. So anyway, with the Ubuntu specifically, the branding stays, the typography stays, the iconic orange stays, which I've never been a big fan of that. But because downstream theming drift, which is a thing that kind of happens out there, it causes problems. When you're constantly patching around upstream changes, to fix little visual mismatches there creeping in, and you end up spending community energy fixing little things like spacing and popover quirks instead of improving the overall experience. You're maybe wasting your time somewhere you shouldn't be. So going more vanilla should mean fewer weird inconsistencies and a cleaner ride into GNOME 50 for Ubuntu 26.04. Now, the part that is going to make the Linux community, make their eyes twitch and faces turn red and get all worked up about is telemetry. Canonical is moving toward Ubuntu Insights becoming the default telemetry tool in 26.04, replacing the older Ubuntu report path. It's still opt-in. It's still just system-specific focus, but with a big behavioral change. Insights can send a report monthly instead of the old, one time and you're done before, I think it's right after you installed it. Now it can do it every single month as it, sends what your system is every single month, I guess. But, but you can inspect the JSON locally, and there's even work towards more transparency, including open sourcing the server backend that processes the data. So, I guess that'll make it easier for us to set up our own telemetry servers, which could be fun, huh? Anyway, even if it's voluntary, anonymized, and boring hardware stats, a phone home monthly isn't quite the headline Canonical wants, because it's not just about what's collected now. It's about trust, optics, how fast opt-in telemetry turns into what else are they doing. So,
I just find it ironic that we all get excited when we get the Steam survey pop up.
Well, you're counting something different. In the Steam survey pop up, you're counting Linux users, which you are when you get it, versus Windows users. Here, you're voting your hardware, I guess, because they want to know what hardware you have. But like I said, it turns out, what else are they doing? Canonical does a lot of great work, but sometimes it just feels like they don't quite read the room and understand the Linux community as a whole. As these little things become PR mishaps kind of way too often with them. Really individually, my opinion, most of them really aren't that big, but there's always some optics to them that they're just not thinking about ahead of time before they do something, or maybe they do and they just don't care. But anyway, that's not the end of the Ubuntu news. There's one other, final thing I'm going to touch on here, and it could be a bummer, or maybe it's nothing. So the Ubuntu technical board's current LTS approvals for 26.04, well, they're missing a couple flavors. Ubuntu Mate and Ubuntu Unity are missing from that list, meaning as of now, they're not slated to be LTS releases in 26.04. Now, that doesn't mean they're dead. They can still release non-LTS builds, but it does mean fewer guarantees, fewer hands, a lot more fragility for smaller desktop communities. And quite possibly, it really just might be a sign of things to come for these flavors of Ubuntu. It's kind of tough when a distro, or a piece of software, a flavor relies on such a small group of people. And, we just talked about the Unity remix version recently, how Rudra Saraswat, I think his name is, he's busy doing other things with school now and isn't maintaining it. And the other guy, I don't remember his name, is looking to keep it going, but needed some help. So that's kind of the thing that can happen when you have a real small team. And I don't think it looks good. I believe, if I remember Mate, I think is that Popey, I think, or I could be wrong, but I don't know. If maybe there's some future predictions around these distros to be had, or flavors.
Yeah, some of these desktop environments are quite niche, and they almost exist. I don't want to be mean, but they almost exist as toys. One could ask, do they really deserve to have a flagship level release inside of Ubuntu?
Unity just got its flagship status a year or two ago. I don't know. It wasn't very long ago.
Pretty recent, yeah.
Yeah. Makes you wonder if that was the right call.
Well, there's talk in the Discord where people are saying, I'm not the fan of Ubuntu I used to be. And, some of this is they swim upstream too much. When they made Mate and they got Unity and just stick with Gnome. Well, we don't like what Gnome's doing. Just go behind KDE. Just stop trying to do all these offshoot things on your own and just innovate in real places, not just these kind of half-hearted things and then abandon them. And
to be fair, it's not Ubuntu, it's not Canonical themselves creating these flavors. It's individuals out there like Rudra Saraswat, or like I said, Popey, I think is Mate, and then they get pulled in so they can use their resources.
Right, but the desktop wouldn't have even existed without Canonical. Really, these spins wouldn't exist without Canonical going, we're going our own way. You kind of seem all over the place lately. It's like they've lost their way and don't have a clear direction.
Yeah.
I mean, I would still recommend them as one of the distributions for somebody new, just because there's so much stuff out there. It's so easy to find stuff. Them and Fedora, that's the ones I say. If anything's built, anything's directions out there, it's going to have those two distros. It's a good place to start. And then after you get your legs under you, take off whatever direction you want.
Even you're not using Ubuntu anymore right now. But I do want to clarify.
I have one server.
Okay. Yeah, I still have it on my servers, but it is Alan Popey and Martin Wimpress who are the maintainers. I think Popey, maybe both of them, used to actually be official Ubuntu employees or Canonical employees at one time, but I'm pretty sure neither of them are anymore.
Yeah. You talked, Rob, about the sort of death by 1,000 cuts of their missteps in PR and such. And I kind of think that a couple of things. One, Canonical is a company, and so they've got to think about some of those decisions a little differently than just a open source project would. But also, they're so popular and so well known that basically any decision that they make, somebody is going to not like it in one way or another. And so there does, when you get to that point, trying to do like open source as a business, you have to get to the point to where you sort of, not that you stop caring, but you grow a little bit of thick skin about somebody is going to not like this. Because if you spend all of your time trying to make sure that you're not going to tick off anybody in your user base, you're not going to be able to make any decisions at all.
But you also need to make sure you're somewhat catering to your core.
That's true. But I think the people that are actually core to Ubuntu really don't care about the ability to opt in to a monthly telemetry check.
It's probably more the people that are paying for Ubuntu services don't care.
Well, no, I mean, even normal users, like I don't care. Now I may go in and turn off the telemetry, but I don't care that there's an option to check in monthly as opposed to only once after install. Like I have so many other things that matter that it's such a non-issue to me.
I don't care either.
Opt in a lot of times because to me, no, I do. I opt in because I'm helping the open source project a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you can see what it is. And it's just like, okay, it's some hardware stuff. It's not snooping my emails or something.
I agree with you. I'm usually one to be like, I'm an odd Linux person, as I don't really care about too much about privacy. Like some people I know, like I game with them online and they're like, you're just out there everywhere. You're easy to find. Your website's there. Anybody could just dox you and find you. And it's like, yeah, whatever. So I don't think as far as privacy goes, I don't think I am your typical Linux user, and I like my voice to be heard on those surveys, but I just, at least traditionally, these are lots of things that have been a big concern to your typical Linux user. At least the stereotypical Linux user.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, and some of that being out there is like, realistically, we're not as famous as, a side character in a B tier cable show. It's like nobody cares. Nobody, we're below small potatoes.
Yeah.
We're tiny tater tots.
We're just tater tots. All right, Jeff. Speaking of food, CashioOS is eating Arch's lunch. What's going on there?
Yeah. Now, okay, this one's going to have a lot of caveats in it. So I need to preface this story about these Linux numbers. Now, this is coming from the Proton database, and it's totally gaming focused. So that's why you're not going to hear about enterprise-focused distros such as RHEL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux. It could be in the data, but it's so low it's down in the noise. So the data isn't taking into account, this is not enterprise, it's not normal home users, or if you game on non-Steam platforms, this is not going to include you. If you look at the article in the show notes, and you'll even see that one of the distributions is Flatpak, and you might wonder what's going on. Well, when Steam is running in Flatpak, it reports that the distribution is Flatpak. And because it's platform independent, it's not like there's a single distribution that percentage can be attributed to. So it's left in there as Flatpak. So, okay, with all those caveats out of the way, let's get on with the story. Over at Boiling Steam, they have an article which shows different distributions over time and their share of the gaming segment. It starts in about 2019 and continues to present day. Now, Arch is the biggest percentage share, but CashioOS is in second place with 18.2% versus 15.1% respectively. If you look at the graph over time, a couple of years ago, CashioOS was almost non-existent, and now it's number 2. Not only is it cutting into Arch, as the Arch percentage is dropping over time, CashioOS is growing at a very fast rate. The other big distribution growth case is Bazite. Not growing now, it's not growing at the rate of CashioOS, but it still has a nice growth and currently sitting at 7.9%. Now, if you look at the time scale, say for just even the past 3 years, Mint has had a small growth, but it almost looks flat if you look at the percentages. I mean, you have to look at the percentages to see the growth, because on the scale, it's pretty flat. It's number 3 at 12.1, so it's just kind of hanging in there. Fedora had a slow growth, and it's at 9.8%, while Ubuntu is losing market share at 8.3%. There's several others with small growth or staying flat or, very small decline. It just very minor shifts. But in the decline, the big shift is Monjero. It has lost a lot of gamers, and it's sitting at 2.3%. Like a couple years ago, 3 years ago, it had a pretty sizable chunk, but it's dropping like a rock. Pop! OS was on a major decline for the past couple years, but the numbers now show a small growth, which I think we can explain that because they were putting a lot of time into the Cosmic Desktop. For a while, and because of that, they were stuck on Ubuntu 22.04 LTS based version of their operating system. So that's all there was. Now we've had a release of Cosmic. They updated to Ubuntu 24.04 based OS. So they tweak it. It's not Ubuntu 24.04, but they throw in their own spin on that. And you can kind of just this last time chunk, I think it's the last quarter, maybe it's a month. They don't really say what it is. It's got a little growth. So I think Cosmic or the Pop! OS is now coming into its own and going to start increasing again. Now, I do want to point out that the article does say that, people will mention SteamOS and that's part of Arch. No, the SteamOS is not included in Arch because the SteamOS reports itself is HoloISO, HOLOISO. Now, I didn't see the numbers listed for that in the charts, but there's several bars which are smaller and don't have numbers or names to them, so I can't tell you what they were. All I can say is it was under 2.3% based on the chart. That's the lowest they had things labeled. take a look at the article in the show notes so you can see the full graphic and make your own conclusions for everything over time. And, keep in mind, though, there's a lot of caveats on this data, and it only represents Steam Linux gamers.
Yeah, interesting though. It's fun to see the what is that called, a waterfall chart? What exactly is that kind of chart called? Do you know, Jeff?
Stacked chart.
Stack chart. There you go. It is
stacked bar.
It is interesting to see kind of that visualization, how things grow and shrink. The most striking thing there was that how dominant Ubuntu was just 5 years ago, and how
it was
like dominant they are now.
48%.
I wonder if those PR mishaps are actually causing some real issues in that.
You know what I think it was, honestly? For a long time, Ubuntu was running really old kernels, really old library. They were trying to be enterprise. And so everybody was like, oh, the new driver's out. Oh, I can't get it on Ubuntu. I can't. So everybody was jumping to more. I think that's why Cachie's rolling so good, is because it's polished Arch and it's optimized for your hardware. And I'm already on the latest kernel, and it was released, 3 days ago?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you have the latest, greatest all the time.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially what Bazite is, but just with a Fedora base. Bazite is quite close to Fedora. It just has like the NVIDIA drivers installed by default, and it gives you the option to run is it the Licorice kernel? They have a custom kernel that you can run on Bazite too. But
it was the second biggest growth.
Yeah, it's done real well.
With the popularity of Cache, and now with Pop! OS having their Cosmic out, I'm a little torn which one to get. But now I just thought about it. I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get Cache with a Cosmic desktop.
Oh, yeah. If they offer that combination, yeah, cool.
They do.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
We also have Wizardling saying, I'm here using Debian, happily living in the past. Debian has started increasing their versioning a little faster as well, and they're better for gaming now because you can get the NVIDIA drivers. They're not. They've kind of softened their stance on the only open source drivers.
Yeah.
So I honestly, when it's time to update my server, I might just go straight Debian and not go Kubuntu anymore.
Yeah, might as well. All right. So I've got a bit of a security roundup, just some stuff that I saw through the week that was interesting to me. And one of the things is Hornet. This is originally a Phoronix article based out of the Linux kernel mailing list that Blaise Bisaki of Microsoft and Microsoft's Linux team have published patches adding the Hornet Linux security module, which essentially it tightens down the signing and authorization of eBPF, extended Berkeley packet filter programs. Those are runtime programs that get loaded from user space into kernel space, and they run in that eBPF virtual machine in the kernel. It's super useful. You see some really interesting code run there. That's where some of the Linux security vendors run their code. It's also, you started seeing some malware running there. And so the folks at Microsoft are interested in trying to ratchet that down a little bit. And then one of the other, this is just about the worst story. Like I literally facepalmed when I understood what was going on here. GOGS, which that is the Go Git service. It is an alternative to GitHub, GitLab, written in Go. And there is a vulnerability that is currently actively under exploitation. There are 1,400 of these. If you use a tool like Shodan, you can find about 1,400 of these GOGS instances exposed to the internet. And it looks like about half of those, about 700 servers, have gotten popped as a result of a CVE. Well, the thing is that the company that discovered that this bug was being actively exploited discovered it back in July. and reported it to the GOGS project at that time, and it has still not been fixed. And these servers are still getting compromised. And I wrote it up for Hackaday on my security column, and I sat there, I did the math. It's like July, August, September, October, November. That's been around for like 6 months. And so, the GOGS project claims to be maintained. It claims it has a maintainer. At this point, I think you just have to conclude that it is effectively not a maintained project and nobody should be using it. There are a couple of active forks that have fixed this, specifically Forjo and Gitia are the name of the two forks. And so if you are on GOGS, go run over and use one of those and get rid of your GOGS. Get rid of your GOGS install, because it's not a maintained project. Effectively, it's not a maintained project at this point. And then the other bit of big news from this week and the last couple of weeks is the React to Shell exploit. And this is a problem in the React server, which is used for a bunch of things. But it had a problem where essentially you could send data to it and get it to execute code. And so any place where that was out there exposed to the internet, it potentially was compromised. This one was interesting because the folks at React to Shell, I think they found it. They made the announcement that there was this big RCE, remote code execution vulnerability, that they were going to fix, but they didn't. Obviously they didn't put the details out there right away. And so you had a whole bunch of people that were trying to figure it out. And there were some vibe coded attempts. It's kind of funny. There was one in particular was a distro where someone had tried to vibe code their way into the exploit, and news places covered it. Like, there's a known exploit available in the wild. It's like, this doesn't work. This is just AI slop, guys. Come on. So there are now exploits in the wild. It is under active exploitation. So, if you run something with React in it, one, you should know better than exposing it to the internet. But two, go get that fixed. So that's what's going on in that world this week. Lots of fun. Lots of fun stuff.
Update and stay aware. That's all you can do.
And don't put stuff on the internet that don't need to be there.
Sometimes it's use a fork, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Abandonware.
Yeah. Don't run abandonware. That's the yep. All right. Well, we're about to hit some command line tips. We're gonna let Rob go first right after this.
Hey, everybody, it's Leo Laporte. You know about MacBreak Weekly, right? You don't? Oh, if you're a Macintosh fan or you just want to keep up what's going on with Apple, this is the show for you. Every Tuesday, Andy Anako, Alex Lindsay, Jason Snell, and I get together and talk about the week's Apple news. It's an easy subscription. Just go to your favorite podcast client and search for MacBreak Weekly or visit our website, twit.tv/MBW. You don't want to miss a week of MacBreak Weekly.
All right. So this week I have a really simple command line tip, but it's very fitting because, like I was telling Jonathan before the show, it's very cold here. Looking at well, you know what? I'm just going to show you the tip for those watching, and I'll tell you afterwards how cold it is. So my tip is Starlit, STARLIT. And this is a Python program. You can install these at the PipX. And it's real simple. All it's going to do is, so I've already configured it, and it's going to show my temperature. And as you can see here, it's, about 0 degrees Fahrenheit, or which for those in the metric world, that's about negative 18 degrees Celsius. And you got the sunrise, wind, humidity, precipitation, and other things. A few other things. So it's a real simple way, and this uses Open Weather Map, which also I was interested to learn about because so I did have to get an API key. I was going to show you how to edit this, but I guess my API key is in there. But if you do --edit, Starlit space --edit, But when you first do, you have to do -- setup. But anytime you want to change that, you do -- edit. All you got to do is put your location in there, which I put one in there, and your API key, which you have to get from Open Weather Map, which is free for 1,000 API requests a month. I guess I didn't see it said 1,000 free, but which is plenty for this. But I also found it interesting because I feel like I could have some other uses for this API now that I know that exists. And again, I'm not going to show you that because my API key is in there, and I guess I could just delete it and start over. But heck, I'll just do it. So it's a simple API key, which I'm going to delete after the show. A location, units. You can have disable animations and have the date time show. You can have the ASCII show or not. There's that message if you saw that there. Emoji, and I'm zoomed in too much, but there's also a couple of colors you could set and a label color that's below the signature. That's all you're missing. Just a couple color settings that you can set things in. So really, that's it. Just Starlit, simple way to see the current weather in wherever you have it configured. And Open Weather Map if you want to use a weather API for some other purposes. Can anyone else hear Jonathan?
I cannot hear Jonathan.
Hey, I'll unmute myself.
We were both just staring there like,
I'm
hey,
like, is my audio out?
This is also why you were not responding when I was poking at you and reading your key while you were going through that. I was sitting here mumbling like E5 4 5 6 7 ED.
Like I said, I'm gonna do like, yeah, nobody heard you, and then all of a sudden your lips are moving, and I think both of us were thinking, it's like, oh, it must be my audio. Jeff's not saying anything, and Jeff's like, oh, it must be my audio. Rob's not saying anything. Just let him talk.
Oh yeah, well.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, oh man, I'm up on the next command line tip. I don't know when I'm gonna go. Hopefully he zooms the screen, and I just.
Oh well, yeah. Anyway, Jeff, why don't you go ahead and take it away and give us that command line tip? Here, I'll zoom your screen so you know this time.
Okay, there we go. Everything's okay. Now, this isn't so much of a command line tip, but rather a best practice for system admins. So, while a lot of admins monitor, uptime, CPU load, memory use, but the article in the show notes that I have linked in there says there's a lot of failures that can be attributed to disk usage. And one of the directories, which might not normally get monitored, but should, is the /var directory. Now, the /var directory is where a lot of logs, database, caches, spool files, and run states are kept. Now, log files can grow faster than a person realizes, and just say it does, and then, well, what happens if you fill up var? Well, logging stops working. You might have database failures. Some applications can become unstable. And while things like SSH still works, there's no logging or access logs. So you don't know who's coming in or out of your system. And it can also affect remote access. And there are cases when var fills up, if you have the right circumstances, it can crash the system. Mm-hmm. So what should you do? Well, one of the first things is to use the du command to find the biggest space hogs and figure out what needs to be removed, moved, or archived to make room. You want to check the overall file system usage to make sure your drive is not overflowing. So you're not only looking for big files, but do you have too many little files? Monitor system D journal size and limit, check those and make sure that the log rotation is working correctly. So that's where after so long, the log file, it closes it, appends a number to it, and then starts a new one. The article does go on to mention that, and checking for deleted files, which you still taking up space. You think, what? Deleted files taking up space? Well, because if a process has the file open when it was trying to get deleted, it's not fully deleted. So Then you also want to check the size of your databases, service files well to make sure things are appropriately sized and behaving. And something else is clean the package manager caches to remove things you don't need anymore. You could have depending on the age of your system, you might have a lot of stuff in there that's just basically collecting guts to this point that you don't need. Finally, add simple alerts to the directory and put it on a cron job to keep things all green. Now, the article in the show notes has examples of the commands used to do all the things I said, like du and df are a lot of them. But we've covered all that before, and so it's nothing too wild and crazy. Everybody's heard this before, so take a look at the article and just get your var under control and make sure that you're nice and stable.
Yeah, good stuff. I always like NCDU. The I forget what it stands for. Something disk usage. But really useful interface for checking that out.
Quick follow up on my command I was talking about. One, I've deleted that key already, so you're all too late. Two, it is 1,000 API calls per day are free, so it's per day. That's a lot of weather calls.
Yeah,
and if you go over that, it's 0.0015 USD, so less than a cent, less than almost 0.1% of for an API call out for that. So you'd have to be a pretty heavy user, I would think.
So for everybody seeing your key, is the concern that somebody would write a script to ping that like 1 million times in a day and
really?
I mean,
they don't have my information. So I guess the only concern would be that it would stop working.
Yep. That's about it.
Yeah, I just don't want people to ring up my API calls in my name and tarnish my good name.
I mean, it's good security hygiene. It's good. Yeah, it's really good security hygiene to not let those API keys escape out into the wild. This one just happens to be one where there's not a whole lot of actual risk involved.
And, maybe I could have started using that commercially for something in the future. I don't know what. Maybe I do, and all of a sudden other people are Yeah.
All right. I have got a quick command line tip. This one will be super useful for folks doing some scripting stuff. I needed to know the computer that my script or program is running on, does it actually have a good time source? Is NTP running and working? And I came up with a nice little one-liner. Part of system D is time date CTL, and if you run that time date CTL status, it gives you a nice little status, your local time, the universal time, the RTC time. It tells you what time zone you're in. It tells you whether your system clock is synchronized, whether the NTP service is active, and whether the local real-time clock is running with the local time zone. If for what I was looking for there, the important line is the one that has synchronized in it. And different versions of time date CTL will, that line is slightly different, which is why in what we're doing here, we just pipe that into grep for the word synchronized. Because both versions of it that I've found out in the wild, they both have that word synchronized in there. Then we pipe again, so that cuts it down to the one line. Then we pipe that again, looking for the word yes, because if it's not synchronized, it will say no. We do a yes, and then -C with grep is a count. And so this script will give you either a output of 1, which is yes, your time clock is synchronized over NTP, or an output of 0, which means that no, it is not. So a really nifty little one-liner to find out, am I running decent time with NTP, or is my computer hallucinating and thinks it's back in the 1970s or the 2150s? I've seen it go both ways.
So I just ran that command, and there's also a line NTP service, and mine says inactive. So it says synchronized yes, NTP service inactive. Wouldn't that have to be active also?
Does your computer have good time?
Well, this is yeah, it does, but I don't know why.
I don't know how either, but apparently what it's telling you is accurate. Your time is indeed synchronized.
Yeah, at first I thought I did something wrong because I cut and paste that line and it said 1. I'm like, that's it?
That's
Did
it.
I do something wrong?
That's what it's supposed to do.
And
then
it's
you're
a
like-
Boolean.
Yeah.
It's a Boolean.
Then you described it and I'm like, oh, okay.
So I will say that one of the things that this looks at is actually a kernel call. There is a kernel time call that has some information about whether it's been synchronized and what kind of a clock drift it thinks that you're looking at. And because you're running it in a virtual machine, it is very possible that the kernel knows that it has a good time that's getting pushed in from the hypervisor. So that might be why it is not actually running NTP, but is actually synchronized. It's doing what it's supposed to. And now you know. All right. Well, it has been a blast. It has been a lot of fun, guys. I'm going to let each of the guys here plug whatever they want to, get the last word in on something. We'll let Rob go first.
Just usual.
Don't get too excited, Rob.
Blah, blah, blah. No. If you want to connect with more of me, ring that bell, hit that thumb. I don't know what they say. I don't really watch all YouTube. Just go to robertpcampbell.com. There's links to my LinkedIn, Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon, and a place to donate a coffee to me. Or if you want to donate to one of the other guys, you can do that there with a little comment, and I'll make sure to get it to them. I've paid up Jeff already in advance for a couple, and nobody's donated, so I guess they don't like you, Jeff. And I still owe Ken.
Yep. You need to come down to Oklahoma and buy some coffee, man.
I will sometime.
All right, Jeff.
Nothing too much to cover, so it's Poetry Corner. My computer won't turn on, said the user. I replied, did you do anything to abuse her? I don't know what happened. Oh, wait, I lied. I knocked it over. It fell on its side. You killed the hard drive, you data loser. Have a great week, everybody.
Oh, I have memories being at college and somebody brought to me a laptop. Like, it's broken. I don't know what happened. My laptop is broken. Can you fix it for me? And we get to look and open it up, and it's like, it's in pieces. And did you drop it? Yes. More than once? Yes. That's why it's broken.
At some point, you knock the rust off the discs. It's game over.
Yeah. Normally you won't knock the rust. Not with hard drives. No. All right.
Rust is a good thing now, Jeff.
Yeah.
Keep up.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It's on the platters.
That's pretty much what it is.
You got to have rust in the right place, in the proper place.
Mm-hmm. I saw a video of a guy trying to make from scratch a floppy drive, and that was one of the things that he was doing, was trying to reapply the iron oxide to the drive to the surface. It was very fascinating. I have to go see if I can find that video. Super cool. Anyway, that is it for the show. Appreciate Rob and Jeff being here. If anyone wants to find more of me, there is also Hackaday. That's where Floss Weekly lives these days, and you are all more than welcome to come and check that out as well. That's hackaday.com/floss. It will get you there. Other than that, just want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody that watches and listens, those who get us live and on the download, and we'll be back next week for another adventure with the Untitled Linux Show.